and like I like that I embarrassed myself, you know what I mean? And that was a very like for me it like kind of humbled me at the point where I was just like, if I want to be the best, I got to kill this ego
Yeah.
because it's not good. You're not going to grow from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can learn anything from anybody, in my opinion. You can learn, from the most scrubbiest player ever could teach you something that like a veteran would never even think of.
Hmm.
Because I've seen some shit that like has helped me that I've like from playing like Xbox Live back then that like sucked. But if you want to learn certain matchups and be like well rounded at like out of state or at Evo, you got to do it. You got to put in the work. And
Hello, and welcome to the Absolute Guard Podcast. We're a competitive fighting game community podcast examining history and current events from the lens of the Arizona grassroots scene.
Yes, welcome. This is episode 78. My name is Benny, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Jon, who held a pretty killer karaoke party this weekend. I did not
Cheers.
sing myself. That's not my
You're gonna
forte.
work your way up to it.
But maybe the next time we'll see. If I get enough drinks in me, we'll see.
That is usually
But
the
otherwise,
phrase. Lots of drinks.
yeah. Otherwise, like, what else has been going on with you, Jon?
Not much other than that. Honestly, it's been kind of a recovery phase for it. Like a lot of the karaoke party. So just for folks who aren't familiar, I use actually all the audio equipment for this podcast. I just take that and I bring my computer out in the living room and then plug my computer into the TV and set up the microphones out there and just turn it into a karaoke machine. So then my TV ends up being like, the thing that shows all the lyrics. And we have an application that just runs there that, you build up a queue over time. And it started as this really small thing. And then gradually it ended up being Jess and I I stole the idea from Jess originally before we were even dating. She used to hold those parties. And I was like, I think I can do that too. I have all this. It was the streaming equipment. It was the mics that were used for the Spiral Series stream originally. It just turned into a whole deal. And nowadays I don't even run tournaments anymore. I just, most of the skills I acquired from running the tournament I end up using to throw parties instead. So it's a good time.
It was a packed house. Yeah, it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. Like, I don't normally have Saturdays off. I had a lot of other stuff to do that day. I had a meet and greet thing to do at my flight school.
Oh yeah,
I had a tournament to go to, and then the party. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna go to work tonight. Like, screw work.
But, you did a lot of things in one day. That's a lot of things.
Yeah. So I brought it up on the podcast before in terms of like me doing the flight school and stuff. And I probably had the best day that I've had today because I was like, basically, we've been practicing landings for the last 9 lessons. Well, it's technically lesson 12, and we just repeat it until like you get it down, right? And this is like my 9th time doing it, and I was getting frustrated yesterday, but then today I was like 9 for 9, and like just did great today, and it was just, I don't know, it was an amazing feeling to just like kind of get over that hump because it was one of those. It's almost like the fighting games thing, like once you figure something out, like you figure it out and it's there, right? Like you have that kind of like epiphany or whatever. And that's kind of how I felt today. Yeah. And my instructor was just like, I don't know what you did or what you changed, but keep doing it because like, everything's good today. So that was awesome.
So when you say like you've been trying and haven't been getting it or something, like what does not getting a landing look like?
Basically the touchdowns are rough. So like,
okay, so you still land.
You still land. Okay. Yeah, any landing you can walk away from is great. I mean, there's no like crazy damage to the plane or anything like that. But like the touchdowns have been rough, and like it's been hard, like kind of getting a feel for like what that's supposed to be like. And then today, like I think I maybe had one that was, not even as bad as like some of the other days. So.
Okay. Yeah, I had an old boss that was he was a flight instructor, and he showed me how the autopilot works essentially. So like it's really like the bulk of the work as a pilot, from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that taking off and landing, like those are the big parts. And then once you're in the air, like I remember he just put up like a window screen and then just opened up a book, and then actually I don't know if he was reading a book. That might have been illegal. I don't know what he did. He was I remember he put up the screen and then just kind of sat there and he said, "Yep, the autopilot's doing everything else." I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm like, you can't even see out and he's just like, yeah, it's because it's too bright, and he put shades up. So I'm like, wow, But then
Yeah,
once he started landing, it turned into a real thing.
yeah, they call that like instrument flying. Basically, like that's like the next
Yeah.
phase after you do the visual stuff. Like like as a private pilot, you do everything visual. You look out the windows. And then the next phase is learning how to fly just using like the instruments and everything in the plane. So that's probably what he was doing at that time.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So today on the show, we have Isaac, aka Chipmunk Down 2. How's it going, Isaac?
Hello.
Yeah,
Pretty
Isaac.
good. How's it going, Benny? How's it going, John? Hi.
Doing good, man. So me reaching out to Isaac, it actually stemmed from so recently, but I think the last couple weeks, Broly Legs passed away. You know, legendary Street Fighter player,
Yeah.
and in there was so back at my first Evo was Evo 2011, right? And we ran into Broly Legs in like the hallway or whatever in the Rio, and his mom was there too. And one of my friends from Alaska, wanted to take a picture with his mom, and so when I saw that he passed away, like I just wanted to go look for that picture to see if I could find it. And I started looking through all these like old, Evo albums and stuff from my friends. And I'm like looking through this one album and like I stumble across a picture of who I thought was Isaac. And I'm just like, I asked Mary and I was just like, is that Isaac? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, I was looking at it. He was playing sitting next to Human Bomb. And then I was just like, I'm gonna go double check because like, the angles were kind of just a little off where I wasn't sure. And then so then I went to Isaac's page and I was just like, let me go find some Evo photos from Isaac. And then I see him wearing that same exact outfit. And I'm just like, oh shit, it is Isaac. So I sent him the photos. I'm like, hey bro, I just found these random photos of you. Like, and he was like hyped up about it. And it was just like, that was the end of that conversation. And then the week after, I was just like, hey, you want to be on the show? And that's pretty much like how it went from there. And it all stemmed from that. Looking for that Broly Legs photo, which I still haven't found, so I don't know where that's at. But in the end, like it all worked out because like we had talked about having Isaac on the show before, and
many times before.
Awesome to have you here. I know Abe.
Thank you.
Abe brought you up in was it episode 29 when we had him on, so that was a while ago.
Yeah,
but yeah, Abe brought you up as
one
of his I'd say one of his top pupils. Like he gave you high praise in terms of if I remember right, he was talking about if there was somebody that like really put their mind to it and wanted to play and be good at this game and they could do it, he mentioned you. And that's super high praise coming from Abe, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Abe. Thank you guys for having me as well.
Yeah. Anytime we've interviewed anybody from Tucson, like your name inevitably comes up, like with Nick or Rock or Ernest or anybody, Marvin as well. Like you've come up in many stories, so like you're an integral part of the Tucson scene that we know from the Street Fighter 4 era and the Phoenix scene. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
I mean, still, Arizona, everybody together. That's how I always saw it. I guess like thanks to everybody for having me. Thanks for giving me praises. It's pretty humbling and nice, But yeah, I mean, like. I guess it's kind of like it's weird. Like from the very start of like when I met everybody, I didn't even play fighting games whatsoever, and I kind of stumbled just upon everybody. I had a few friends in Tucson that would play like that worked at like the local comic book shop, and they would hold like Super Smash Brothers parties and like tournaments or whatever, and I would play with them and it'd be fun or whatever. And then they would have like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 tournaments. And actually, I think I met Marvin or Marco at the time. I can't really remember, but I thought I was good at the game because I lived in California before, and my dad had like a liquor store that he owned, and he had like the arcade cabinet there, and I would just like spend quarters on it. But I play on like easy mode, so like the buttons were mapped to combos. I didn't know any better whatsoever. So I was just like, oh, I thought it was good. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do that here. But I would pick manual mode and just get by like Marco playing like Servbot Rock and like Mega Man. And like, I don't even know what team Marvin was playing. It was probably something super weird. But yeah, so that was then. And then they went to go play Super Smash Brothers Arcade and Box. And then I saw them playing Street Fighter 4. And it's kind of like a wrap for me. I thought it looked cool. And then showed up at like I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but like we used to hold boot camps weekly there, and I showed up to one of them because I was just like, oh, this is gonna be cool, and I just got my ass beat, and I didn't really. I was just like, I just kind of want to get better, and I didn't really enjoy getting my ass beat so much. And
trial by fire, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to kind of date it here too. This was it Vanilla Street Fighter 4 or Super Street Fighter 4?
It was Super. So everybody was already played Street Fighter 4, and I had no idea like how broken any of those characters were, like Sagat, Geef, Ryu. Like I used to watch YouTube videos, and it would like show like moment 37, and then it would go to like the old Evo videos with Daigo and stuff. With Street Fighter 4, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I remember watching that like in school, and yeah.
You like the teacher would educate you on Street Fighter history?
No, I would just like not be doing homework in college and just like looking at YouTube videos. I was like, oh, that looks sick, you know? Yeah, you know. And so
BR, like it would be like the 144p like arcade A show YouTube videos ripped and like 2 or 3 pixels of Ryu.
It was like before Nico streaming.
Yeah. Nico, oh my god, man.
If you know, like
The reason why I draw attention to Street it being super is that it's your point earlier, and that like you were coming into a scene that had already kind of been thriving for a little bit. And that the people already knew how to play the game that you were interested in getting into, and so you basically jumped into a pool of sharks like immediately. That's a tough. There's not very many beginner players that I know of that started that way, because again, I had the benefit of starting it when the game launched, and so I had kind of training partners that were of similar skill level, and I didn't get my ass beat over and over and over again. Which could have been discouraging for someone like me at the time, but it's a testament to your character to be able to persevere through that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was. If I really reflect back, I think I really like admired the challenge in a way. It was something I would never have done ever. I used to play guitar. Now I play guitar again after taking like such a long time off. But I didn't really have like a challenge at the time outside of like what I was going to school for. So, and then like somebody was acting a little snobby. I won't drop any names at the time. So I took a little offense to that, because I was just like, well, you're just a fucking nerd. Like, what the heck? But I was just like, I don't want to like, I'm not one of those people who like will want to physically harm you. I want to beat you in your game.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get good. And I kept going back and going back and going back until I beat him. And then eventually it's like, Dark Souls. You want to keep going and keep going and beat the best and beat the best and beat the best until you get to a certain level. That's how I saw it. It was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of how having that kind of that challenge or that rival, that demon or whatever that beats you, that that hurdle to get over is always something that it's a great motivating factor for a lot of people. I mean, that's kind of how I was too, because like, I mean, despite me doing well at my first tournament, like I got humbled at the subsequent tournaments I went to. And I was losing this stuff that I was just like, I shouldn't be losing to this guy. And like, that's what drove me to want to get better. It was like, I want to beat at least this guy and his brother. Yeah. And that's what drove me to get better was I wanted to get past those guys. Then, everybody else was, that might be in due time, but it was at least to get confident enough to beat those other guys.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of how I always saw it. And it was always like, I don't know, just fun. And you build that camaraderie with a lot of people. And like back then, I mean, online was ass. So, it was a lot more convenient just to meet up with everybody. And we'd go to Arcade and Box, like, I think almost 3 times a week or 2 times a week. And like, that's not even, going to John Velociraptor's house or Nick Going's house and just like playing all day and all night too. So it's pretty fun.
I'm curious too, because like you brought up Benny, you brought up like wanting to be better than this guy or that guy, and like I've seen different ways of like how people are like, particularly with Six and last couple episodes. Even we've been talking a lot about what motivates somebody, and Isaac. One thing that stands out about both like our friendship over the past decade, as well as like what you just said now is like it almost, it's less so about like being the best in the community and more like, to me, from my vantage point, it seems like you pick a rival, and then you try to like transcend that rival, that specific person. It's almost like a hit list in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and I kind of wanted to examine the differences there compared to like, hey, I want to be better just for the sake of being better, or I want to be better as a like be the X person. Because we were talking about like tournament results being an indicator of skill, right? And you're like, oh, I want to be top 3, but in your case, it strikes me more as top 3 over a very specific person, or it doesn't even matter if it's top 3 or not. You don't care about that. You just care about not wanting to beat a very specific person. Or
Correct.
a demon,
at the very
right?
beginning, it was like that. Like it was very much like that, and then eventually, I just wanted like be overall better. It kind of just grew into that because I really enjoyed the learning aspect too. Because it honestly, like I felt like back then, Street Fighter 4, even Super, there wasn't any like frame data out there. It was a lot of just like figuring things out, or you're staying up late at night watching Japanese streams, or hoping for like somebody to be capturing somebody from Japan like on their phone or whatever and upload it on YouTube. You'd be hoping for something like that to like see something different, or so it's just like it was a lot of that, being there playing the game, and then I don't know. Eventually, you just like want to keep winning. I felt like my first couple of years, it was like me learning the fundamentals in a way, but like I felt like I'd never really learned how to play Street Fighter because I had that siloed mentality at first. It wasn't until like I started playing like with the Z's and like, I would probably even say like Abe and like Marvin and like John, like we started doing well a little bit outside of tournaments too. Like we go to Evo. Like my first Evo, I didn't expect to do well at all. But then I did okay in casuals. I don't remember what my tournament results were. But I felt like my results were very inconsistent. So I had to understand like in a weird way, like my fundamentals and everything, my whole well-roundedness, and it needed to get better too. So that kind of like forced me to even drop my first main character because I felt like he didn't fundamentally like teach me how to think of the bigger picture mentally in a way.
Yeah. And just for our viewers, like your first main character was Adon, right?
Correct. My very first character was Adon, who was introduced in Super, and I always thought he just looked really cool. He had like the weird peacock hair. He was Sagat's like pupil, and then went like against his like whole pupilship and against Sagat. And he had like a unique style, in my opinion, which his style was Muay Thai, but he, instead of projectiles and like tiger knees, like what Sagat would do, he would do like his own version of like tiger knees, which were like the anti-air version, his own SRK. He had a Jaguar kick, which was like a totally different direction of tiger knee that would flip vertically. And depending on where you would block, it was like plus or whatever. So he's just really weird. And he got up early. Remember that? He got up like
he did.
Different wake up time
early.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So nobody could safe jump him. And he had like ridiculous damage back then. So I was just like, oh, this character's kind of brain dead. Me
that
not
standing
knowing.
roundhouse, dude. Remember the standing
roundhouse? Yeah. But it didn't really teach me how to play the game fundamentally and like understand the bigger picture of wanting to do better out of state, and also like wanting to bring up the scene so that way you also get better. But you also build that camaraderie, and recently I've seen some like new players, like Brandy, for example, Native Wolf. I just saw her like fucking everybody up, and I was just like, I'm fucking proud of you, dude. That's fucking crazy cool. Like it's cool really to see that how everybody has gotten so much better.
Yeah, I wanted to go touch back on characters, but typically like when we introduce somebody, we want to know kind of about their origin story in terms of like the gamer tag. So I've always known you going by Chipmunk Down, like that's what you put as and I think in the Google form was Chipmunk Down 2. So what was the origin of that? Like where does that come from?
So my current roommate, who I live with, her and I used to play a lot of Halo together during high school. Like Halo 1, Halo 2, we'd like have like small LAN parties, and then Xbox Live came out with Xbox 360 and stuff. We'd play like all day and all night. I didn't like the first time I got my Xbox Live, I didn't have a gamer tag and I didn't know what to pick. And her name was Chipmunk Down, so I just became Chipmunk Down 2, and I just used it forever. Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a guest account then, right? Like you know how you get the guest account and then it just adds the number.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And
Oh
so I just
wow,
kept it.
okay. So it's
It's
paying
kind of like
homage to
and
your roommate.
yeah, you know what I mean. She's tight. So like her and I've
Nice.
been best friends for like 20 plus years. So
Oh, that's awesome. My first Xbox gamer tag because I didn't have anything at the time was Shikaka from Ace Ventura.
yeah, that's great.
I just thought it'd be funny if people were like saying that over the mic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But,
thought Chipmunk Down too is just like hilarious. Like you'd see like me playing like Halo and just like try to get like the most kills with that name and be like, this is so funny.
nice.
Yeah.
So going back to the character discussion, you're talking about how your first main was Adon, but there was a time when you were playing Ryu at one point, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing like Shotos in general in
Yeah.
Street Fighter games because I feel like, especially Ryu, I don't want to say Ken, I don't really like his playstyle.
Yeah, I don't like Ken either.
See, he's kind of sloppy. I don't like it.
I like Ken. I think Ken's awesome.
There's not. You do like Ken because you like Ibuki. You like to hit buttons.
I do like to hit buttons.
I like to walk backwards and just like die, you know. But I like playing like Ryu because he's just like straight up like at the like several versions of Street Fighter 4. I felt like he was just like a straight up character. If you like, he'll beat you in the neutral game, like, and the better Ryu player always wins. I felt like I never got to like that level of like consistency of like XSK or even like local Yusuf, you know. I felt like he was the GOAT. But you know, it always felt good. It was very rewarding to like play that character in that style. And he teaches you how to play the game too, fundamentally.
Yeah. No, the reason I bring that up is because the first tournament when I was here when I moved in 2012 was the Hazbats. Like you guys were in like season 2, I think.
Oh yeah.
You know, at Haz's house. And those videos are gone now. Like I'm pretty sure the VODs got deleted. I think that's what John said. I haven't looked it up in forever, but that was my first tournament here. You know, I drove over there with Nico, and I forgot who I don't know who else I played, but there was a time when I played Ernest, and I think it was you and Rick Dog were commentating, and then you guys were like kind of just screwing around, like not even paying attention, and I beat Ernest, and then like I hear you in the background, like when I watched the stream later, and it was just like. Did Ernest just lose? And it's just like you were talking shit to Ernest the whole time, just like Ernest, you suck or whatever. Ernest, you're a scrub.
Yeah.
And then I ended up playing you next, I think, and then I beat you too. And then I was just like,
you probably beat my ass.
Yeah, because that's how I remembered you playing Ryu at the time. And then after that, I don't think I ever beat you in tournament, but I remembered you playing Ryu because I beat your Ryu at that time, and then I ended up getting third that tournament. I played Latif. Latif's like, I didn't even get to play Latif's Viper. He played Seth against me. Like I wasn't even worthy.
Oh, dude, I remember Seth. So annoying. Golly.
Yeah. I played as Seth, and then Nico played Ryu against me in like losers finals, and I was like, "You bastard!" I was like, "But I didn't want to play Honda Mears anyway. That was dumb."
Yeah, I think
that's what I remember. Dude.
My mentality at the time, I just wanted to pick Ryu to see if I could beat you with Ryu, but I was just probably just talking shit and ate my L.
Yeah. You seemed pretty laid back that day, especially like the way you were talking mess with Rick. Like you guys were just having a good time, I could tell.
Oh yeah, well Rick and I like put us together in a room and the shit talking just goes out everywhere. You know, it's just like random shit talking. It'll be like, I think one of the chances like Phoenix eats boogers, just like or smells farts or like dumb shit all the time, But it's all in good fun,
Yeah,
I really like that time, and it's funny like during the hazmats because that's like so long ago too. That's like
10 years ago.
Literally
more than 10 years.
Jeez,
that was like 12, 13 years ago.
Literally in someone's house, you'd have like 50 people in a house.
Yeah,
just hanging out, playing video games, and Marvel 2. That's when Marvel 2 was like still a little bit more relevant than it is now.
Yeah, it's good times going over there, man. It's just like, and like you said, like I don't know, I was whenever I arrived or whenever I could make it to tournaments, like it was always like you, Marvin, Rock, Abe, like you guys were like the Tucson horsemen or whatever that would like come in.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It would always be us. We'd all like get in car with Marvin, or like at the time Rock would drive us to Phoenix a lot. We weren't even like 23 at the time. I think we're like 21, 22 still. Around then. I don't remember. Oh wait, 2012? Yeah, 22. Yeah, so it was always funny because it'd be like me, Marvin, Abe, John, and Nick, but like they were always on like their separate thing because like Abe hated them at the time, probably. Who knows?
If there's a person in the scene, Abe probably hated them at some point, right?
Yeah, that's like that's a rite of passage. You know what I mean? Like, if Abe doesn't hate you, that doesn't mean that means he doesn't like you. Like you have to go through that, and then
get to earn.
And now he's just like a level. Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I always kind of felt that too, but I didn't know if it was like the Tucson versus Phoenix kind of thing, or if he just didn't like me, period. But then, like, I'd see him and like he'd be saying hi to the kids and saying hi to me, and I was like, how can I even be mad at this guy?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I was like very mean. I feel like in tournament, I was like ultra killer mode at the time, trying to be like that, like the murder face, and then outside of that, I was just like, it's just video games, guys. We're all here to have fun, And it's still very much like that to me. And like, even though I don't play, and if I do show up to casuals, it's just like hanging out with everybody. It's just like picking up, right where you left off, which is like, I think what like also sets us apart in the Arizona FGC in a way too, because I feel like we're a lot larger of a community like that as opposed to like other smaller communities that are like that in bigger cities.
Yeah. One of my earliest memories of you, Isaac. I mean, the absolute earliest is that I remember you showed up at one of Rick's tournaments at the pizza parlor.
Yeah, and that was awesome.
You brought a notebook and everything, and that was one of the more notable things is that you were actually like.
Oh, was that the one that
genuinely
like
trying to study
Awatuki?
Yeah, it was in Awatuki. Yeah, it was a local pizza shop there. Okay. Yeah, but the more poignant memory that I have is we went to, I think it was West Coast Warzone. And that was around the time when like you had enough experience in Street Fighter that you were playing like pretty competitively at that point, and that was Latif's like breakout moment because everyone called him Kiamata, right? And we ate so much Wendy's that weekend. It was like us and then Reese, and because the Wendy's was the only like restaurant that was nearby. It was just at some random ass hotel, I remember you were telling me about, and I'm airing some of your dirty laundry on the podcast here, but you have like you have a lot of fake teeth.
Yeah.
And me at the time, I was just so like confused about that because I'm like, I'm like a sheltered kid from the suburbs, and getting to know people outside of college even. And I was like, why would he not have any teeth? And you explained that to me, but would you be willing to tell that story on our show today?
Yeah, so I'll be more than happy. So at the time when I was like 16 years old, I was ditching school with a bunch of my friends to go. I don't know what I mean. I could curse, right? A lot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, I just want to say. So I was 16 years old, and we're in Tucson, Arizona. Even my roommate and we all hung out with like a bunch of kids, and we went to a high school called, I'll just say it, Cholla High School. And we just decided, like, you know what, let's go get some fucking pizza. Like, fuck school. We all ditched school. We get on the bus to go downtown in downtown Tucson to go get pizza. As we're coming back home, we have to take the bus back home. We're waiting at the bus stop, and this guy right outside of the University of Arizona, it's like right on University Street. Like, he pulls up on the stop, this four-way stop, and he like looks at us. He looks at me, and he's just like, "What are you looking at?" And I was just like, I didn't say anything because I was just like, I don't know what the fuck this guy's even. I don't know. He might stab me. I don't know what's gonna happen right now. And then he pulls his car into the like full-on curb into the like facing us with his vehicle. He's like, "What did you say about Mexicans?" And I was just like, "Bro, I'm Mexican." And as soon as I said that, socks me in the face and like completely like shatters my like teeth and jaw and everything like that.
Damn.
And, had to spend the night at the hospital and stuff. And actually, like the pictures that my roommate took, I used to play in like some bands, like local like hardcore metal bands in Tucson. We used to like take that picture and go to like Kinko's and like print them like over them, so they like all pixelated and make them into like death metal flyers. So,
that's pretty cool metal.
Yeah,
that's so. For some reason, I actually misremembered the story. I thought you got it. I thought you got in a fight at a concert, but yeah, I forgot about that. So
That was my
That's
broken
crazy.
pinky, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing that came. Like, I learned a lot about you that weekend. Because at the time, all I knew was just like, oh, he's a Street Fighter player, and he started a couple months after me. But fundamentally, like I just that's all I really knew. And you were telling me like how you played like you played shows like in
Yeah.
a band, like playing bass and stuff like that. And I was like, man, this guy's younger than me, and he has already experienced so much like more in his life. Including getting your teeth knocked out, like literally getting your teeth knocked out, but then also playing live shows and being part of the metal scene and stuff. So I'm glad you brought it back to that, and your lack of teeth ended up being promotional material.
Yeah, it did. And what? Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Turn a negative into a positive, man. I had no idea, man, this whole time.
There's a silver lining in a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
Which is
oh
funny.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's funny, like playing music and stuff like that. I mean, I thought playing fighting games gave you way more like the shaky hand test. I felt like way more like anxious and nervous playing like on stage, on stream, or like top 3 at any tournament.
Oh, really?
I still get it sometimes too.
Yeah, I don't know. I still get that every now and again, like randomly.
Yeah.
Do you think that has to do with like the fact that like when you're playing on stage, like you're playing music on stage, usually you're in a band, so it's not just you up there. But when you're playing a fighting game up there, it's literally only you, and you're responsible for everything you do. Is it a little bit of that, or is it just more like they're really different?
It's a little bit of that, and it's also like I kind of want to just execute what I'm thinking perfectly, and so it also looks good. I guess that also comes from like playing the music,
the performance side of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like Sako is one of my favorite players ever. Like he's literally like the GOAT. It's like him and Daigo, and I call Daigo Daigod. But like him too, like he's fancy. He doesn't need to be going for that stuff, and that to me is like what speaks to me even in playing music. Like I love shredders, and I love like crazy guitar players that are insane. Like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, things like that. So when I think of Sako, I think of him in that caliber, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you put a lot of value in technique and technical play, then.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like also Punk is like modernized. Like fundamentally, I think he's like really good. He looks good too.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say Sako, like that whole technical aspect and like the Sako combos and all that stuff. Like you said, like that's stuff that he didn't necessarily need to do, and it's almost like like big dick energy kind of thing. It's just like, hey, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you right now that I can. And like I just remember those are some of my favorite moments was watching him on like on the Evo stage or the streams or whatever, and you can hear the crowd like just gasp at some of the things that he was doing. They're just like, that's possible, like we didn't even know that, or he's doing that in the middle of this like big stage, of all the times to do this. Like this isn't just casuals and I'm gonna try this against my friend. Like this is this is go time. Like this is prime time for me to win, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna do this right now.
So I don't remember what year this was, so I'm gonna bring you guys way back. This was Revelations. Do you remember that, John?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I remember Revelations.
Yeah. So Revelations was it Gutek's tournament that he would run? It was
a tournament in LA. The LA and Revelations was capitalized. I remember that much. And then Haz was streaming that, if I recall correctly.
Oh, was that's the one that had like the prize pot like drama, didn't it? I think that was one of the tournaments.
I feel like a lot of early tournaments had a lot of prize pots.
Yeah, we have some locally here. Even we covered one on the podcast with Devastation 2013 or something.
Devastation.
Devastation. My bad.
Yeah, not Undefeated.
Yeah, I was like, dyslexia just kicked in. I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, dude. Undisputed. Jeez, that's a long time ago. But Revelations was the first time I saw Sako IRL play, and that's like to me at the time it was just like seeing your favorite guitar player like live, just shred your face off. Like it was insane, and that's when he was playing Cammy too. He was doing like all the crazy like dive kick combos into like unblockable like setups, and then that's when he brought up Ibuki too. for the first time, and you see like the one frame links,
The loops.
him,
Yeah.
the loops with the jab. He would select plink. He mapped out his like select plink all the way over here, so he'd be like hitting everything. And he also played Super Turbo right after that too. That's the first time I ever seen the T-Hawk option select, and he just like destroyed everybody in the tournament.
Nice.
Yeah. That makes me think like like I was talking about my first Evo was 2011, like when we had seen Broly legs, but it was like that was that was my first time seeing everybody for me like in real life. Daigo, everybody else. Like I remember we caught Daigo like walking into the hotel and we're just like, hey man, can you take a picture?
Yeah.
Like you have that kind of like that idol worship thing going on because like you're just like you see what these guys have done like in tournaments and stuff like that, and like you're just like, oh shit, like this guy's standing in front of me.
Yeah, dude, like I definitely, it still happens to me, like recent Evo that I went to go like watch Sako play because I just like love seeing like, I know it's kind of weird, but his hands and the way he like, because he still plays arcade stick, he doesn't play hitbox, he's still tried and true, and he still tries to do it all like manually by hand. So like when you're seeing like his hands like quadruple tap or like pianoing like a super to come out in specific frames supposedly, like it's just kind of insane to see.
Well, what's that other game that he was really good at? Vampire Savior, wasn't it?
Yeah, he played that
named
at
combos
Revelation.
Yeah,
and
that game's like super fast paced. Yeah,
dude, it was crazy. He'd play on like a small little Hori stick, like the very first, like you remember like the Tekken 5 ones from back in the day, or the Tekken 4 ones, and he was just like doing it, and people were like, oh, that's insane. Like everybody was just like huddled over and like with digital cameras like recording it. Yeah, there were like Samsung digital cameras that are like 2 inches or whatever.
Oh man, that takes me back, man.
Yeah,
I wanted
real.
to ask you too, Isaac. So we talked about like music as far as like that performative side of it and the technical side of it that comes with that, and then you've also brought up like kind of what motivated you to be better or to become better. And I don't see that streak of competitiveness in music, and maybe I'm missing something here, but did you play like sports or something in high school, or did you where did the competitive streak come from, if not the music scene?
I played like soccer growing up with my like family and my father, and like little league when I was a kid, and then like up to like middle school. I wouldn't say that I was very competitive then. My competitiveness definitely came from playing Halo. Like just like it was just so much fun. Winning like small with amongst your friends, and then like you'd hear like rumors of like people at your high school who are like amazing at it, and you want to play them, and be a part of their crew, and like play with them and get good, and just keep going. But that's kind of where I got it at first. And then Street Fighter kind of felt like that to me too. It was just like after a while, I love the competitiveness of it. Like even now, like it's just like it's a great motivator. And like I don't know, the competition has changed so much that it kind of like really holds you accountable, depending on like what your goals are for it too.
Yeah.
If you want to be like a big fish in a big pond, I mean, or even like I said, like let's say throughout the whole world, it takes a lot of work for it, especially like with access to the internet, YouTube, streaming being as prevalent as it is. Like it's way harder than what it ever has been, in my opinion, because anybody could just download you for anything that you do.
Yeah, literally, like that's happening in Tekken. People are literally downloading Ghost in Tekken.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up because that's actually like what Twitter's been talking about in the last couple of days is in terms of like the old games and the new games, and whether some older players would still be good in new games, and it's just. Yeah, like that's the thing with the new games or the accessibility, right? To knowledge, right? It's so much more vast, and there's so much more information out there that people can digest and literally download and learn things a lot faster than they were in the past. Where it's like where people were putting quarters in the machine and just like, all right, hit me with this and let me see what I could do with this, right? That's a long time ago. Like it's a whole other kind of ball game nowadays.
I mean,
but
yeah, I mean, we talked that. It
Yeah.
is like we talk about that regularly about like how
Mm-hmm.
technology has allowed for that, but I also think that it's created a brand new type of player in that
Yeah.
the motivator, like 'cause we talked about motivation earlier, right? And your motivation, Isaac, was to beat a rival first, and then it was to be the best, which is different
Hmm.
than somebody that's like, hey, all this information is now public, and I just want to master the game, right? Or I
Yeah.
want to know all the frame data, or I want to knowledge check people, and like to connect it back to music briefly, like there is that, like I think fighting games share a performative aspect, but they also share a mastery aspect. Um,
Yep.
Absolutely.
but
Exactly.
then the third in that trifecta is the competitive side of it, of wanting to beat that
Hmm.
ass. And
Yeah.
I see you exhibit all three of those things, but
If you want to be the
beating that
best.
ass, I don't. Yeah, that's the part I personally struggle with the most, where I can
Mhm.
easily be like, oh, there's like if I'm a software engineer in my day job, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn how the system works, right? And that's really easy to
Mhm.
be like, okay, let's just break this down. But as far as like the competitive drive, or the ability to win and lose,
Mhm.
that's the part
Yep.
where I'm like, I don't see a I
Who's
want
in the
I
best
like
lesson?
yeah, that's the weak spot that I have, is I'm still like learning how to deal with that and cope with that.
I
Um,
Yeah.
understand that. I had to deal with that for I've had my battles with that for a long time, up until like I don't know, like I knew that I wasn't the best anymore, and that's like, and then you have to humble yourself, and
yeah.
because it is ego that
Yeah, yeah, that's
that
that's the
happens.
that's the that's the great humbling thing about the FGC, man, is like
Mhm.
you really got to check your ego at the door. Like that's something that I did a lot of times when it came to like other people from coming from other games, whether that was
Absolutely.
like Mortal Kombat or somebody that played, Tekken or something and wanted to play Street Fighter. Like I'd play them and I'd be like, "This is my game," and then they'd beat my
Yeah.
ass, and I'm just like, "Okay, maybe this is my game, but it's also his game too." And I'm just like, "I gotta get better." Right?
Yeah, dude.
Like
I mean, I used to be crazy, bro. Like, I used to
yeah.
get like my ego used to be crazy back then. Like, I used to like, you know,
Yeah.
say some pretty fucked up shit to just trying to like instigate a fight between people, like
Yeah,
because of my ego, But
yeah,
it and I went like I knew at that point, like it's just all bark, you got to walk the
Well,
walk in order to
I,
hold
I
your
want to
own.
make sure we give you your flowers here, because like I do actually, like we talked about Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 in passing, and I think through
Yeah,
humility we haven't talked about your results at all. But I do consider you one of the best players in Arizona, if not the best during certain periods of time. Like during Street Fighter
thank you.
4, outside of like maybe Latif, but again, Latif, he has kind of his own world for a little bit. But like you
Yeah,
were consistently winning every tournament locally for Street Fighter 4, and then
yeah.
Street Fighter 5, you didn't try for the first couple of years, and then once you actually
yeah,
started trying, then you were pretty hard to beat. And like I think you had a streak where you're beating pretty much everybody for a very long period of time. And
yeah,
it's one thing to win a tournament, it's another thing to win every tournament.
Consistently.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Consistently.
and
Yeah,
so
consistently. Yeah.
I by and large considered you the best for multiple periods throughout my fighting game career,
thank you.
seeing in Arizona here. And we've talked about like the best on like what it means to be the best on previous episodes. And
Mhm.
because it's one thing to win the tournament, it's another thing to have everybody gunning for you because they know you're the best, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah, that Evil
definitely.
Ryu was a thorn in my side, man.
Dude, I love that character, man. But like, I wish he was
he,
back. But
he
yeah, I
had
mean,
so many answers for Honda. It made me so mad. Like option
such a
selects and
bad
stuff like
matchup.
that. Like
Oh,
I couldn't like once you got going, I was just like I couldn't
like
even do anything
outside
at
the
times.
low
And I'm
photo
just like,
range, you cannot get in whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
impossible. Yeah. But
oh
yeah, I mean, like,
man.
it's just like I've always, I guess, like for example, I'm just gonna say it, like Armando and I love Armando. I love
Yeah.
him. Right. So back then, dude, he used to fuck me up with Seth, and it would make me so mad. And like I like that I embarrassed myself, you know what I mean? And that was a very like for me it like kind of humbled me at the point where I was just like, if I want to be the best, I got to kill this ego
Yeah,
because it's not good. You're not going to grow from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can learn anything from anybody, in my opinion. You can learn, from the most scrubbiest player ever could teach you something that like a veteran would never even think of.
hmm
Because I've seen some shit that like has helped me that I've like from playing like Xbox Live back then that like sucked. But if you want to learn certain matchups and be like well rounded at like out of state or at Evo, you got to do it. You got to put in the work, and you see some crazy stuff. Like I remember like the Fei Long unblockable or Ibuki unblockable with like Adon back in the day. So back in the day in Street Fighter 4 times, a lot of the times post throw characters had setups, and Adon had a setup off of a back throw on Ibuki where he could do back throw, he would toss her body, and you would do like a frame kill with crouch strong, and then immediately hold up forward on your stick or whatever you're playing on and hold and hit medium kick. And it's like unblockable. It's impossible. I don't know, like it was a wrap after that. And then you could just mix her up 50-50s, like just do that, throw, block, delay to like, you know, she basically has to risk a lot in order to stop it from happening. But I saw that from like a random Adon player on Xbox Live that I ran into in a lobby on the PGS stream. Do you remember that, John? Back in the day?
EGS. Is that the Peaceful J?
Yes.
Yeah, where they used to run a lobby, right? Yeah. That was like one of the first instances where people were streaming, and it was like an arcade cabinet almost, where anybody could join the lobby just by viewing on Twitch and then just run it for a little bit and get their, you know, their spotlight on the stream. Yeah, and
that's how a lot of people. Myers came from there, and that's
Myers.
Okay. Yeah, I met Myers through that, and he was like 16 years old. Alex Myers, California FGC, one of my boys. I love him, dude. He is great. Such a good guy. But yeah, I met him when he was like 16 on that stream by beating his ass. He played Sakura and Seth, and he was so bad back then. Now he's like one of the best in the US, bro. In the world, I'd say, you know?
No, I agree. I personally like I've talked a lot with Myers over the years here because he helped me like learn how to play Chun-Li and learn how to play a lot of Street Fighter. That, like, I'll be candid with you, like we started roughly around the same time, but like there were things that you learned right away that I just didn't learn for years after the fact. As in, like, you learned it in Street Fighter 4, but I didn't learn it until late Street Fighter 5. And so like I felt like I was trying to catch up to you in so many ways. I remember even there was a I think it was a Phoenix versus Tucson 5v5. And it was at Mr. Heads, if I recall correctly.
Probably.
And Phoenix got worked that trip, and like you were playing Evil Ryu at the time, and I played you for like the first time in you know 3 or 4 years at that point, because I was on a Marvel stint. I was playing Marvel.
I remember you were one of the best in the world, bro. Remember
that? I'm flattered, but I remember then I was like, you know what, I'll take that skill in Marvel and I'll transfer it to Street Fighter. It's probably the same. And then I fought your Evil Ryu, and I don't think I got a game off you, and I was like, this guy's the best. He's the best. I remember at the time my ego was also like, man, this motherfucker started in Super, and I've been playing since Vanilla. Like 1 year actually matters in the grand scheme of things. But at the time I was like, man, my pride was hurt, and I was like, but he is the best. That was a big moment for me. I was like, man, he put it in the time, and it really shows. And you were humble about it at that time too. I expected you to like lord it over me, but you were like, nah, this game's awesome. You were having fun. It was super cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's just the mentality if you want to be the best, man, that's the mentality. Like, and that's just like, I don't know. I feel like I grew up with you guys, you know what I mean? Like, you guys have taught me a lot. I learned a lot from you guys. Like, you know, Likewise. From you, John, Rick, Scott, Abe, Marvin, Marco, you know, Rock, Jake. Like, I took a lot from the community, and kind of like, I think the community's made me like overall a better person. And then I kind of try to translate that in my gameplay as well, overall.
Yeah, I agree. It's we were talking about this before the show started, but like, you know, one of the benefits of this podcast is we have the ability to look back on our previous memories and kind of and stories and whatnot, and see how much we've changed and grown over the years. And again, I do remember you being kind of a shit talker, being a spicy dude, basically always like looking to get a rise out of people. I remember hearing the story about Arnold. We'll talk about that. I don't know. Yeah, but like I remember like you were always very combative, and then nowadays you're chill, and we're at the point where like you mentioned Brandy earlier, where it's like you're educating the next generation, which is a whole nother deal.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm so proud of them, dude. Like, I was talking to Chase at Evo, for example, and he like put me aside and he was like, hey, man, because I couldn't jump at him whatsoever, which like, and he's
Chase?
improved a lot. Chase
Like Big
is,
Mac combo.
yeah, Big Mac 69. He's improved a lot.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like I used to fuck him up
Agree.
for free with any character in Street Fighter 5. And then like I remember telling him, I was like, dude, you'd be so much better if you learned how to anti-air all the time. And we played a Street Fighter 6 at Evo, and I couldn't jump at him whatsoever. And he fucked me up like 17-2. And I was just like, and he was just like, I just want you to know, I took that to heart, and now nobody jumps at me. And I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. Good shit.
Nice.
Chase is one of the brightest minds in the community, and I'm very proud to have known him, or to continue to know him and continue to learn from him.
Yeah. Fucking Ryu.
I wanted to go back real quick. I didn't realize my mic was muted. That's why I couldn't get in. But you were talking about you mentioned the 5v5. I think you might have been, maybe you're referring to that 7v7 they did at I forgot the Maker's house. Makers.
Oh yeah, it was at Makers, not Mr. Heads. It was Makers. You're right.
Yeah.
It was at a house. Yeah.
Yeah, because I went there with my family because I wanted to come. I wasn't participating in it because you mentioned Isaac beating you and like you couldn't take a game off of him, and like I have the results like pulled up from back then. That was 2014. That was like 10 years ago.
I don't think I even got a chance to play him, but I rather in the actual exhibition in casuals he kicked the shit out of me. I think I lost.
No, you did play him. You did play him.
I
in the
did.
Exhibition. Yeah, you lost 2-0.
There you go. There you go. If my memory is correct, then I did not win a game. There we go.
Yeah.
I knew that matchup pretty well too at the time because I used to play so many Bookies.
Oh, with Rock too, right?
Mm-hmm. And just all mine, dude. Like back then, my mentality is still the same. That's probably why I don't play as much anymore because it was like a routine for me. I'd try to practice an hour a day, watch videos an hour a day, and rinse and repeat, or think about it. Because there's a lot of theory outside of like Street Fighter, in my opinion, too. Like you could think about scenarios in certain situations, stuff like that too. I don't know. I always called it like playing the game outside the game.
Yeah.
Really fighting.
Yeah, game theory. Yeah, game theory. That kind of stuff, man. Yeah.
I heard that a lot of the Dominican players, like that's what they do too. Because Mike, when he stayed over there, that's what he told me. They'd play like an hour, watch a video for an hour, and do stuff like that. And they're the best in the world, man.
Yeah.
That 7v7 is also really notable for me because I admittedly hadn't really interacted with many of the OGs in our scene at that point, because at that point we were playing Marvel, and like Marvel, there wasn't a lot of OG participation, I guess, in Marvel 3. But I got to know like Scott and Jeff and Rick and like all those old guard Phoenix guys a lot more because of that 7v7. I actually think that, like, Benny, you and I are part of a group chat that actually is formed out of that the 7v7 group.
That's so sick.
Oh, really? Oh,
I don't think you know that. That's where that chat came from.
No,
I think I added you way later into it.
But I was added in later.
Yeah, because there were people on that team that have, like I think Rick and Scott were on that. I'm not sure actually how that all.
The teams were. Yeah. It was Old Gun River. It was Jeff. It was Frenchie.
There you go.
Rick Dog, you,
Frenchie
Saber,
Demon, bro.
We'll Get Paid, and then Mike. Luminaire.
Dang, Steve was playing.
Yeah, We'll Get Paid. Boxer, and then
his
Tucson was
so
was Marvin Kyoku. Was Marco, Fromo, Isaac, Ernest, Driftwood, and Abe.
Whoa, that list is like vintage. You said promo.
Yeah. So it was like the first set was 7-5 Tucson, and then the second set was more free. It was 7-2.
Even then, the 7-5, I think Frenchie carried us most of the way there.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yep. Yeah, your memory is correct. Yeah.
Oh, did we lose to Frenchie?
That was the 5 wins for Phoenix. Was Frenchie.
Dude, Frenchie he's still good. He's amazing.
Yeah. I actually ran into him for a Street Fighter 6 tournament recently, or rather, not recently.
Really?
It was the one you ran, Benny.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, it was Frenchie. Frenchie got all 5 of those wins. I was looking at it right now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It was 5 Frenchie and then Tucson 7.
Dude, Abel, my demon, dude.
Demon. You beat him in the next set, though.
Huh?
You beat him in the next set, though, so you got your run back.
Yeah,
that was the end of the set. It was the 7-2. Was you beating him?
My record against good Abel players is like 3 to like 100, bro. It's so bad. Like I played a French Abel player after after I got my ass beat by Urio at an Evo once, and
Yeah.
Urio did like an unblockable. Okay, so back in the day, like a lot of players would hold on to their tech
Yeah.
for Evo moments. You know what I mean? So during Street Fighter 4, the like hard knockdowns after throws, Seguro had a cross up unblockable on Adon that I've never seen in my entire life, and he did it to me, and like it also leads into like a stand fierce loop combo, and you're just dead.
Yeah.
You remember those?
And
because
it
it's like
stuns. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it
like one
stuns, and then
reset
you're
and
in
then
the
it stuns.
corner,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
unblockable. Because Sakura had like this ridiculous stand fierce that was like 3 frames back
I'm
in the
not
day.
surprised that it's Urio.
And when he hit me with that, everybody was like, "What?" And then he looks at me and he's just doing it at the same time. I'm like, "Bro, whatever." I've never seen that in my entire life. And then he did it to me the next game, and it's just like rinse and repeat. I died. I was just like, "Damn."
Were you talking shit to Urio out of curiosity?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Cool.
Okay.
I was like, "That's cool. I've never seen that before." And everybody behind me was like, and it was like the device. Everybody was behind me. It was like you had people from the UK, you had people from like Japan, Korea, China, and they saw that shit. They're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Everybody would gasp, and it was pretty cool. I was like, "Sick, thanks." And then I lost an Able player right away after that.
I get you.
That 7v7, like I just remember that because like I said, like I didn't participate, but I brought my family down there because I wanted to just check it out.
I remember that.
The exhibition, and then like I remember at that time I had a blog going too, and like I documented the matches.
You
on
did
the blog.
have that blog. I forgot about that blog. You never talked about that on the show. That shit was great.
Yeah, I think I have the files archived somewhere. I just the site's not up anymore, but I still have the files somewhere. But the other thing I did was like I was looking at it and it was like I streamed it on, I think using my phone on Ustream because like I think you guys were having problems, or whoever was running the stream there was having problems, and I ended up running it off my phone on Ustream, and I was like, Ustream, like that's not even a thing anymore, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
No, damn.
It took 78 episodes for you to mention that blog. Oh my god, I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Maker House. That was such a cool venue too.
Agreed.
So the Maker House was like this great, like I don't know what to call it, like rustic business building in like Tucson, but it also had like it was a bar and a coffee bar.
Yeah, I remember like board games and stuff in there.
Yeah. So you could get loaded on caffeine and alcohol all at the same time. It was great.
Yeah, I had like that big door. I just remember that big door to like walk in.
Yeah, the big wooden door, like giant wooden ones. Yeah, it was pretty cool. That was fun, man.
Yeah.
And then Mocha, dude. So like after that tournament, that's when like I feel like Mocha was coming out.
Yep.
And just like destroying everybody. So
it was right Dudley. After that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I look back on that roster and being like, why the fuck was I on that, or why were a couple of people on that? When in reality, like I remember Mocha, Frenchie, and Yusuf being the main like strong players in Phoenix.
I think that was before their time though.
It was right before.
It was like a weird.
Right before their time.
Yeah.
I felt like that was the next. Yeah, I felt like that was like the next generation of like you have these online players that just came out of nowhere and like
Moss,
destroyed Moss. Yeah, Moss, Mocha were both online players. I think Mocha played Cross Tekken and he showed up at a tournament once at the Hasbats.
Oh, really?
He was the only person I knew that was doing like perfect electric combos with Kazuya locally. Yeah, he always had ridiculous execution.
Yeah, I had no idea. I remember him like the qualifier, that first qualifier. I just remember like Frenchie was there. He was and Frenchie was just like, you better watch out for my boy. Like he was watching for him, and he went in and rolled everybody. I was like, damn.
Dude, online players, man, you gotta watch out for them. They're so good.
Yeah,
you can learn a lot from them.
There's a blur here where like the online players are more legitimate than some of the offline players, in my opinion.
Latif's an online player, bro. He got second at Evo. Latif is a huge, like I remember he'd get out of school at the University of Arizona and like not even do homework and just grind for 12 straight hours Xbox Live.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember West Coast Warzone, man. That the memory you were talking about earlier, that was like his coming out tournament. Everyone called him K-Mata. because that was his brother's tag.
I think that's the stream I remember, because like I don't know if it was Via or somebody else. I don't know if he won. I just remember.
I think he got second or top 8.
I'm pretty sure it was that tournament. Yeah, I think it was that tournament, because I remember seeing a stream and then Scott was being like interviewed or talked to, and I think it was by Valle, and then he was just like, "Who's the next up and coming guy from Arizona?" And he's just like Latif, and he's just like, "Who?" And he's just like, "Yeah, Latif." Like you guys don't know, but this is the next guy. And then he got second place at Evo after that, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
All in like a year too. Like it's like ridiculous. And then he went to Japan and was playing like the best of the best and getting like 100 win streaks on people. Like it's crazy. I think like I would probably say him and PR Rog were like internationally the two best that played out of the States. And
yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I also, to be clear, like Latif was named next up and comer for Street Fighter, but he had already won Evo for Guilty Gear at a certain point. Like it's not like he was just some random kid that showed up. But at the time though, he was in school, and so he was just my cats are yelling, by the way. I don't know if you guys can hear them right now. They're big Latif fans too.
They are.
Yeah.
It's like he put in the work, you know, like I've known him for a really long time, and he used to tell me that all he did was just play and like watch videos and just
that was like playing. So I didn't know you guys at the time. Like the only person I knew from Arizona when I went to Evo in 2011 was Nico. Like that's the person, really the only person I knew. Like I kind of met everybody in passing in 2010 when I visited. Like I was on vacation here, and like I met John. Like we didn't really talk. I think we played a couple casual matches. I met Reese. Mainly was like the point of contact was like Rick. That was the other person was like Rick, and that was basically it. So I knew like Nico, and then when I didn't even know who Latif was, and then like seeing that he was from Arizona later, and then when I eventually was gonna move here like a year later, I was just like, holy shit, I'm moving into this place where guy that got second at Evo. Scott was notorious for his own Evo moment with Sakura, and and just.
Remember Shinji, bro, from Alaska?
Yeah, Shinji, that's my boy Yang.
Yeah, I know Shinji, bro. Yeah. He used to play with Latif, and we used to play Xbox Live all the time. That's all.
That's my boy Viper and Sagat.
Yeah, bro. Viper players stick together, dude. You know? Yeah, I remember that. Dang. It's a long time, but hey, that's like I feel like that's like such a good time to reflect on a lot of stuff too. It's not like that anymore, but. I like the way the community is going anyways. It's a lot more welcoming, and I feel like in order to be the best, I mean, you really have to be the best.
It's this is a pretty humbling thing.
I want to pick at that one, Isaac. What do you mean by do you believe that you weren't the best back then, or like was there like what do you mean by like you really have to be the best?
Like nowadays, I feel like you have to be. Oh, like back then, like I feel like it was like a different kind of like I felt like the bar was always rising in Street Fighter 4 in terms of like the caliber of players, like in volume wise, but also in terms of like even the champions. Because remember at the very early days, you never see like Super Centauro. Like perfect example, Bonchan losing to Luffy's Rose, and then Super Centauro man coming back. Challenging him to a $10,000 money match and like 10-0ing him Sagat Rose. It's like the bar was always raised. I feel like now the bar's like it is raised, and it's a lot harder to stay consistent at that bar because you have all that technology. There's so much visibility on your gameplay and everything like that, which I do like, because in order to stay consistent and continue winning, you have to go against all those odds. Like you have to be like the best.
Yeah. So basically, like you're saying, like the floor has been risen. Like the ceiling's still there, but the floor, like to be at that top level, has been moved up as well.
Yeah, and I'd probably say even the bar has been risen. Like, look at Sonic Fox, man. Like, he's one of the goats. Like I feel like that would never happen back then, and now you have that caliber of player so good at everything.
Yeah, well, that's true, because like I think the one person that was always looked at as being versatile was like Takedo, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, and then maybe Fudo after he won Evo, because he was a previous Evo champion too with a Virtua Fighter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about Evo champion, but that's what he was known for, was Virtua Fighter.
prior to being an Evo champion. Yeah.
Yeah, probably knowing him.
I want to kind of pinpoint this here. This is a spicy question, but do you think that fighting game players are better now than they were back in the Street Fighter 4 era?
I say yeah, but I feel like the games kind of limit creativity in a way too.
So do you think that oh, go ahead. Do you think that the best Street Fighter 4 player is better or worse than the best Street Fighter 6 player? This is like a Michael Jordan LeBron conversation, so there's really
it really
wrong
is.
answers.
It's literally like wrong answers. I'd probably say there's a lot more wow moments that I've seen in the Street Fighter 4 era. I would probably even say Street Fighter 5 era. Like you see some more like holy shit moments than I do in Street Fighter 6. But I think there are definitely a lot more better players now than there were in the past, for sure. Like MOV, like for example, he's the GOAT at Third Strike. He's like above a certain level, but he's not quite like I'd say like Punk or Mena, for example. I think, or I don't think he's there, but he's the GOAT at Third Strike.
Yeah.
And those players like Punk and Mena, like if you see them stream or even play like casuals offhand, you'll see them play like old games, and they're fucking good at them.
Yeah.
It's a totally different caliber of player nowadays, so it's a lot harder now. You have to be really good.
Yeah, I think Justin Wan brought up an example of Smug, like recently picking up Third Strike and playing on Fightcade, and then I guess getting the like A rank in that, which against the people that are playing that nowadays, like that's no easy task.
They've been playing for like 100 years. Those guys never let that shit down. They'll come back from the dead and be like, Third Strike's still a better game. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Third Strike in particular is a really unique one because of the resurgence that community has had recently. Like even locally right now, we have Arizona players that are, 16 or 17 that are playing those games right now.
That's sick.
Yeah. Because they've got the Jazzy circuit. That's the thing. The Jazzy circuit. That's what's going on. That's TGZ's been a qualifying event for that. So that's that's become one of the spots here to having a big event too.
And early 2000s, late 90s fashion is in. Those games were relevant back then. So that's all. There's a lot of like nostalgia and like analog or like a lot more hardware-esque stuff. So I can see that. It's pretty cool. And who knows? Maybe
it's going to be at Evo this year too. So I'm curious how that's going to go.
Exactly, that's going to be fun. I always like watching it. I suck ass at it.
That's how I feel too. Like I'm terrible at the game, but I love watching it. Yeah.
Terrible at it. I'm so bad, but I'll watch it all day. But that proves my point, dude. You have like Mena who's great at everything, or Punk who's like great at a lot of games. And like you have a lot more of that style player as opposed to back then, who's like you have the one person who's really good at one game.
Yeah.
I want you to if you could help me figure this one out. When Mena won Evo, or not Evo, when Mena won Capcom Cup, I think it was the second or the third one for Street Fighter 5. What was your opinion of him at the time?
He's the GOAT, bro.
He's the GOAT now for sure, but like, did you believe in it? Because I didn't believe in it. I just thought he bullhorned his way into victory.
I don't know, man. I felt like at the time I probably was like, oh, that's kind of scrubby. But if you really think about it, that's some tech that he knew that nobody else knew. He put in that's some shit he knew to use against Tokido, and Tokido has been playing the game a lot. And back then they used to have like those Red Bull tournaments where they're literally grinding for like 12 plus hours days, Mena had something else up his sleeve, and it's very hard to beat Tokido regardless.
Yeah,
he's the GOAT.
Like, I agree with it now for sure, but I just remember at the time being like, man, and that's that same kind of like mentality that you mentioned earlier about like making sure that anybody can teach anybody anything regardless of skill level, and being able to have that humility. At the time, I was just like, man, this guy, he's just gimmicked everybody into winning Capcom.
It's
an absurd thing to say, right? But
no, it's like you said too, John. It's like one thing to win, but it's another thing to win consistently, right? So like he kind of had to prove himself to you, because like that one win, like yeah, he might, maybe he falls off the face of the earth, and you're just like, oh yeah, that was a fluke win, whatever. Tokido should have won, but he's proven himself over the years, and now you're like, okay, yeah, he is one of the greats.
Yeah. And I like how you put it as far as like proving himself to me, because realistically he had no idea who the hell I was, and so like why does he have to prove himself to me as a viewer? But that actually is the lesson that I've learned over the years, and that it's like, oh well, I don't have to be too good to learn from anybody and anything. Like I don't know, it knocked me down a couple pegs to realize that every strategy is ultimately legitimate, right? Regardless of how angry it makes you. And I think that's the point that you were talking about earlier, Isaac. And I think you knew that way earlier into your fighting career than most players. And I think, frankly, that's why you've got the heart of the competitor.
Yeah, you mentioned like the whole like shaky hand thing, right? And like I was at the Game On Expo a couple weeks ago playing in a tournament, and like in the cash tourney, like the first person that I played with, like I didn't know anything about them. It's not any of the regular guys or anything. And I played, and I was like nervous as hell, and I'm just like, why am I nervous playing this guy? And it's just like it was kind of like I have that expectation of myself that I should win this match, but at the same time, I'm just like, am I going to be able to perform and beat him? And like I was dropping all kinds of shit, and I was just like, I still escaped with the win, but I was just like, that was an ugly win. Like and then I got up, and like my hand, I looked at, I felt my hands were shaking. I was just like, why am I like this? Like right now, like this isn't even like a big match. But I guess for me personally, like ego wise and everything like that, like it was a huge match, because it's just like I didn't want to just lose to this nobody that I knew.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I still feel like that happens to me sometimes. Like, it definitely mostly like I just don't want to let anyone down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like a weird like mentality thing that happens to me that I gotta get rid of. But
is that the Abe thing? Is that like the Abe thing? Because I always felt like you guys were like playing for Abe. Like when you guys
sometimes,
came here,
dude.
I always felt like there was levels, right? Because like I always felt like when Ernest lost, like there was always that disappointment in Abe when like Ernest lost, and he's just like, oh man, I can't believe you lost.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Abe, dude, you got to make him proud. But yeah, I mean it's that, and then it's also like me, like I don't want to let myself down. You know what I mean? I like I try very hard in a lot of stuff that I do. So I don't want to let myself down a lot of times. So I get like, I'm like, ooh, and it could be anybody, bro. And then like, but it's still humbling, to feel that.
Oh, a question about that. Do you have any kind of like coping techniques or anything like that? Like when you realize like you're nervous, is there anything that you do to kind of calm yourself down? Like, do you think about anything? Music? Is there anything else that goes on?
I mean, back then I'd probably have like a beer, kind of like unwind.
Yeah.
Or like now I definitely like take a lot of deep breaths like through my stomach, if anything. And I'm a lot more okay with taking my time during like matches and trying to take a break and stuff. But I know if I have the momentum on shit, I'll be like, let's go. Vamonos,
hit that rematch.
Hit it. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know, at the end of the day, like I just have to always remind myself, we're all homies, we're all homegirls. We're here to just play and have fun, improve. If not, cool, we could just still have fun.
Yeah, see that was my thing too, because like, especially in the Street Fighter 4 days, there was a lot of shit talk going back and forth, and it's just like I never,
toxic, bro. I'm
the type of person like I don't get fazed by none of that, right? Like like you said, like I want to end up beating you in the game. Like I mean, for me personally, that didn't happen a lot of the times, but it's just like that was my mentality. I was like, I just want to shut this guy up, right? And even if I lost, like at the end of the day, like I never took anything that anybody said like personally when I played.
Yeah.
And just I think in some ways my kids actually helped out in a way too, because like I think maybe you guys kind of held back from like being a little too mean to me or talking too much shit to me, because like my kids would be there, right? Just like, oh man, these kids are here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like the help probably back then. I was 20, probably. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that, and it's just like, I don't know, man. Just like growing up is great, So it makes you like reflect a little bit more, and then it's not worth it in a way. We're just here to beat each other's ass and have a good time. Why not? And then what else I was gonna say something else. I'm totally popcorn brained on it. And it was funny. Oh, also like I get nervous because like if I play out of state, I feel like I have to look
Yeah.
good for Arizona.
Yeah.
And that gets
that's
to
the
you.
burden of being the best, right? When you consider yourself the best and you're representing everybody else that's not as good as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just I'm like, I gotta wear Arizona on my back. Fuck
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then just like, you know, you wear that and it's just like, whew, gotta relax. Arizona wins again, you know. But yeah, like that sometimes gets to me too. Even locally, I don't know. It's just like maybe it's the perfectionist mentality I have for myself sometimes. But
Yeah.
Is there we talked a lot about growth and about like changing over the years, you know, and is there anything that you would give as advice to younger players of like something that you did that you wouldn't recommend doing or something that you wish you had done more of when you were younger?
yeah, I mean, just be open minded. You know, be open minded. Grudges don't really get you anywhere at all. They like the great motivators, but it's just like it's not. Everybody's young and dumb at one point. Um,
Yeah.
that and then it's also like there's something else I was to say. I forgot. Honestly, a popcorn brain, man. It was such a brilliant thing that I thought of. But I'd probably say just like, you know, have fun with it. The more fun you have with it and you know, don't lose the like I feel like and I'll, I feel like the more of my brain working as an engineer kind of took away the feeling playing that I have.
Okay.
And that's something that I wish I still had more of. Like, hold on to that if you can. Because I feel like if you want to be like consistently like there's a good balance between knowing to play by feel and to
Yeah.
have the analytical mind at the same time. And I feel like I lost a little bit of the playing by field a lot because
Okay. That's
during my
interesting.
beginning years, I didn't know shit about
Yeah.
anything. I played purely by feel, and I felt like I did.
Yeah.
I liked my play style a little bit more in certain times in certain areas, as opposed to like now. I'm so analytical. Just like it grosses me out.
Yeah, that's the Bruce Lee, the Fei Long. That's the title I used in
Hmm.
when I played online was the Don't Think Feel. That's the I used the Fei Long title even though I didn't play him in the game. That's what I used online in Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, that's the one thing I like. I wish I still had. So
Like
because like
instinct. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
instinct. Because like I'll eat shit all day on wake up, dude. Like people will wake up DP me and it's so obvious, and I'll be like, that wasn't obvious. You know, they're at such a disadvantage there. Why would they do that? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. You think so
Yeah.
logically that you become predictable, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I talked about that a lot too in terms of like the kind of the robotic like Moko gets brought up a lot about in that too because like he was so consistently good at like the neutral game and stuff like that and you're just like how do I beat this guy at footsies?
You got to play by feel, dude. You got to turn your
Yeah,
brain off.
you
Yeah.
gotta throw
How
that
do I
shit out of the
scare him?
window. Yeah, you
Hmm.
gotta throw that shit out the window.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Or
something
like
I kind of like. Oh, good.
the ability to like sense your opponent's emotions and be like, how do I piss him off so that way I don't
Yep.
this
Yeah,
becomes
put him on
less
tilt.
of a factor. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like that's like harder to like grasp now than it was in the past.
It's also harder to win consistently like that. I think just
Hmm.
because of the way execution is, the easier the execution gets, the less opportunities there are for mistakes, and the less the mood affects those mistakes, I guess.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. That's why Street Fighter 6 is kind of cool because it has so much like random shit that can happen. You know?
What's your opinion on the three Street Fighters that you've played? I recognize you haven't played six competitively, but you played
I
the
played
other
it
two
pretty
pretty
competitively.
competitively. Oh, really?
I'd
Okay,
probably say, yeah, I did pretty well at Evo, like playing casuals. I mean, I was playing Luke, but usually, I felt like fundamentals because you're so far with that brain dead character.
sure.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, I felt like the best Street Fighter to me was maybe Ultra, and then I'm
Ultra
gonna
4.
say Cross Tekken 2013.
Oh, you're one of those guys. Okay.
I fucking love that game, even though I was never like really that good at it. I really like enjoyed the ground game of that game a lot, and it was really creative. It was cool.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Street Fighter 6, my least favorite Street Fighter 5,
Okay.
up until like the patch after they nerfed Seth.
After they so the last version of Street Fighter 5 then.
Yeah, I thought the game was like fine at that point. It was like pretty rewarding, had a good neutral game. I still feel like it was very flowcharty, regardless of like what anybody says. It's still set up central, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
But it did have its like cool stuff. Like Seth, I thought Seth, like she was so cool. I thought that was such a cool character design, and I wish she would come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like Ultra. I mean, at that point, Honda was nerfed to the ground, so I was like,
Yeah, Honda was like extra bottom mid, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
but
was like mid tier. Like John's brought that up too. Like he'd kind of shit on like the mid kind of low tiers, but then like he would just get destroyed by all of like the top tier characters. So it was like it was no fun playing against like those characters.
I'll tell you my favorite version of Street Fighter 4 to play just for trollsies is definitely Arcade Edition. Playing either of the twins. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I like Fang a lot more because like Fang had like in Street Fighter 4, Fang had like a close fierce punch into a cancel his palm, and you would do like the focus attack dash cancel input into level. I think it was Ultra 2. And it's like 1 frame. That was so sick.
So again, kind of showing your colors as far as valuing technique and
Absolutely
hiring that technique. Okay.
Yeah,
that's why I love Chun-Li in Street Fighter 6, man. I think she's super cool. I just don't have the time put into like the technique.
What about Akuma though?
I don't know, man. I have to see how he plays because he was super scrubby in Street Fighter 5, man. He was so scrubby. Like Red Fireball B trigger. Like I know we're bringing up new games, but like that was such bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it was, like and let me fly in the air and also throw air fireballs. Like good fucking luck, and to like set up central.
You're right.
Yeah, he was dumb. I mean, I'll probably still play him if he's dumb, but like, I don't know. I really want. It'd be super cool if they put like Yang in the game. I'd like to play Yang, or I'd like to play Elena.
Ooh, Elena. Yeah, I kind of wonder about Yang just because Jamie's kind of like the combination of the two of them.
Yeah,
so I wonder.
I
if
looked into him.
Yeah, but Elena, I could kind of see coming back because that's what seems to be like a lot of people want, like kind of like the third strike characters to come back. Like I hear a lot about Makoto, Dudley. I don't know about Dudley now because like they got Ed in terms of boxers. So yeah, so I don't know about him, but I mean I could see Elena. There's not really like a character kind of like her.
I feel like also playing a character that you would never play is like super beneficial. I've considered playing like Sim.
Really?
Yeah, because like I ass against Sim in every game. Like I'm so ass against him. Like and Akita is like fuck, dude, like impossible. So
very
like
good player.
I feel like playing the character will help me learn the matchup better if I ever take it seriously. And he's fucking sick in Street Fighter 6, I think. He's pretty cool.
He's a lot of fun, I just hit 1800 MR like last week or a few days ago, and like so I've started dabbling with some other characters like Cammy just to kind of
I don't know what that is.
I'm trying to get a different feel for things. So it's just like I don't know. I always think back because like John's talked about like my evolution from playing like Honda back in the day to playing a more complicated character, whereas other people, have played more complicated characters and have dialed it back. Like him going from Ibuki and then kind of going to Chun, but Chun's still kind of difficult to play too. But like I've been thinking about it a lot lately in terms of like how would I play a different character back in 4? Like if I didn't play Honda, like who the hell would I play? Because like I was kind of so stuck in just kind of playing him and being like a character loyalist, and then basically eventually like almost like a low tier hero kind of type. And then it was just like, I always wonder now, like what if I played somebody else that was actually like a better character?
That's actually what I loved about Street Fighter 4. I feel like I played like most of the casts at a certain level. Like it was just fun. Like Cammy was fun to do combos. Rolenta was hilarious to do combos with. I could never play Sea Viper and Ibuki though. That's like real nerds play those characters.
That shit, like it stunted my growth as a fighting game player. Fundamentally, I think. I wish I had not played the Ibuki when I was growing up.
I played Adon, man. He sucked fundamentally. I was like, this character doesn't teach me anything,
You still got to DP though. You got to anti your DP and you got to poke.
He woke up 6 frames that was really early.
Good. He did.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
but
did.
yeah, even back then, man, I used to like what John was saying even earlier in the podcast. I used to like take my notebook and ask Scott a lot of questions,
Yeah.
even about like old games and write them down, or like ask people like if I lost, like, hey, what do you think I should do better? And I would write it down, or like, where do you think I lost? And I would like write it down. Or if I saw something at like West Coast Warzone or anything, I'd be like, write it down. Like, oh, cool. I would never use like my phone for like notes or anything up until like I got older. But
yeah.
like, you know, writing it down made me remember a lot more stuff and think about it a lot more.
Mm.
Even then, when I was learning Street Fighter 4, I was asking people the same thing of like why I lost. But I remember at the time being like, they would tell me, and then I wouldn't really understand it. So there's like an extra level of like mastery you had to have there, where you had not only had to be open to feedback, but you had to be willing to comprehend that feedback and apply it. And I think that's actually a big strength of yours, is you're able to look at something and immediately see intent and then apply it immediately afterwards. Versus like, again, I've had people in the Street Fighter 6 era ask me like, what did I do wrong? And I tell them what they do wrong, but they take completely the wrong lessons from it, or they think about it completely differently. And they're like, oh, I should be doing this instead then. And I'm like, well, no, but you know.
Probably comes to be open-minded, man.
Yeah.
Be open-minded about it.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up, John, because like I know you're always like kind of questioning like if you're being too hard on me sometimes, and I'm just like, no, man.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, he's always just like, he's like, do you think I'm being too harsh? And I'm just like, no, man, you're fine. Like that's the kind of stuff like I need to know. Like, you know, me personally, like that doesn't faze me.
Dude, okay, good, because I'm going to say this right now. Is, man, motherfucker, I watched you play in that Ranbat for the AKG.
Oh, last week?
Oh, my God. There's no reason why you shouldn't be winning every one of those Ranbats. I'll throw shade at Alaska right now. Every time I see Benny lose, he loses to himself. And I'm just like,
yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
Happens, man.
You played so fucking well at the beginning, and then, like... Then you like landed a DI and you did nothing. And I was like, what's going on? It's a completely different guy.
They just did some shit and it broke you, bro. They broke that analytical
There's
mind.
execution errors, and after that I kind of cracked.
Yeah. But that's the consistency and the resilience that we were talking about earlier that Isaac was mentioning, where it's outside the game in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
And what's your recipe there for Isaac for practicing consistency?
I mean, for me, what always worked was like playing the game outside. Like I would play the game a lot. Like I'd play it. Like I said, I have a routine. Like I had a routine back then. Like I'd get out of school or get out of work, you know, do whatever I need to do, and then like practice for an hour or watch videos for an hour, and you know, flip flop, vice versa. If I was going to try something, I'd watch a video on it first and then try to replicate it, and then you know, think about it.
Regimen consistent. Then, if you want consistent results, then you have to train consistently.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like, you know, like I said, going back to like you ask for feedback. You know, you learn a lot from everybody. Like, I learned so much from playing, like anybody. Like it could be like I'm trying to think like anybody from like the very first time I played at boot camp up until like, you know, playing with Yusuf and learning how to use to like delay normals, option selects and stuff like that, you know, correctly. I always had an idea of it, but I never knew how to use it correctly until you like, you know, see it visually at the time. Just hold yourself to a strict regimen, like you said.
Yeah.
Delay buttons are actually a really good example of something that I actually learned that from you later on in like I think it was Street Fighter 5 era, like season 3 or something like that. I was like, oh, delay buttons are a thing. You can use those for whip punish too. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still teaching people that. I taught Chase that in like 2021, I think. And now he's.
I could hear his buttons when I play him. Like, oh, you delayed it, you motherfucker.
Yeah, he likes doing that.
Yeah.
It's good times.
It was. It has been. Still is. You know.
That's actually the still is part is I'm curious about, because you mentioned before the show started that Street Fighter 6 has piqued your interest recently, or are you interested in getting back into the competitive scene?
I am. I just like don't know like where to start to say like I don't want to play Luke anymore because I feel like he's hella boring. He's not very like he's kind of stylish but not really. You know,
he's whack. He's
hella whack.
I think I saw you tweet like somebody, or I think I asked you, and then you replied. I was like, "Who you playing?" And he said Luke, and I was just like, "Man,
I knew I could see how the character plays. And I'm like, dude, I could like play this game for 8 hours and do okay, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with him. And I want to play Ryu. I think Ryu, honestly, and I know this is gonna sound weird. Like, I don't really want to play Akuma at all. Like, I want to play Ryu only. Like, I
Oh,
feel like
really?
he's pretty stylish.
Yeah.
His neutral
He's
game is
good
very
now.
rewarding, and like, I don't know, he's just like kind of a straight up like neutral character in a way. He does have his shenanigans, but like, I don't really want to do those shenanigans. Or I'd probably play like either Cammy or Chun Li because like I like footsies a lot, and Chun Li's fucking cool. She's very stylish.
She is very, very
Yeah.
cool. You brought up
Yeah.
earlier that she's difficult to play, but I don't actually think that in this game nowadays.
Really?
Like, she's difficult to play in that like the combos are hard, but they're hard in a game where combos aren't hard. Like,
Yeah,
the stuff compared to the stuff we were doing when we were younger, like even Street Fighter 5, even like the
yeah.
combos in 6 are way easier than most. It's
Well,
just
you're
the
doing the
decision
stand jab
making.
bird kick. I was just like, damn, John, you got those. I remember the first time you showed me. I was like, damn, I could never get that down.
Switch to hitbox. It's way easier to hitbox.
Abe was doing it on an arcade stick, and I was just like, damn, you got those.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Abe would be able to do that. But
yeah,
no, it's hard compared to other characters in the game. It's relative to other characters in the game.
Yeah.
But like I played Ed recently, and I'm like, this character is actually hard.
Oh,
actual
damn.
like fireball DP stuff, like we've been doing that for a long time, and so I think you would actually gel really well with Chun.
Yeah, I like Chun Li a lot. I like her gameplay. It's very just, I don't know. I like meat and potatoes, man. It's my favorite. Yeah.
She's gonna get nerfed though, so maybe sit tight until after that happens.
if they do bring Makoto back, I would be interested in playing her because I feel like that's totally not a character I would ever play.
Yeah.
She's wild.
Burst grappler, basically.
Yeah, she's like just crazy with the dive kick. Well, she has a jaguar kick, so.
Yeah. Benny alluded to it earlier about how we've been talking about like when how people's first characters are versus where they end up. And I was actually thinking about you when we were talking about in the last show, and that, you start by playing a non-standard character first, like an Adon or an Ibuki in my case, and then gradually you find yourself gravitating towards Shotos. And so, like, do you think that is just something that everybody does, or do you think that that's something that like what drove you to start moving towards the Shoto compared to sticking with Adon or going deeper into the wild shit?
I would probably say like the first time ever was definitely seeing like Momochi Ryu and like over Daigo at first, because I felt like Daigo's gameplay I didn't really understand it. And then I watched Momochi's Ryu at the time, and I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. And I just felt like he was just beating people straight up, just no gimmicks, just fireball, DP anti-airs. And I was like, well, I feel like I should learn this. And then I started learning a lot of like the cool tech in the Street Fighter 4 times with Shotos that like expanded that just straight up neutral gameplay. But like there's specific things that you could do in the game to like trap people, like jab fireballs. If somebody were to focus, absorb that forward dash, that's like a free cajillion punish damage, whatever Shoto player play or character you use. Like things like that, or like how to use it, like medium punch fireball for like very specific, let's say outside of a medium kick range anti-air. If somebody immediately jumps, tries to react, and you have a certain time, you can still anti-air it like that. So it's just like, then you expand that neutral game with that. And I was always intrigued by like that, like gameplay, and I still am. Like it's a lot of fun to just play that gameplay.
Do you think that style of gameplay lends itself to be more consistent, which was another kind of quest that you brought forward earlier in the show?
I used to think so. I don't think it is anymore. Okay. I think it's just a lot more rewarding to me. Like I don't really care about the results. I kind of just care mostly about like,
how you win, how you want to win rather.
Exactly. Or try to, you know what I mean? Like I may have to use some crap or whatever the game mechanics, but I want to try my best.
Yeah. There's something to be said in terms of that too, because there's like, there's characters that like people just don't gel with, right? Like even if they're like great characters, right? Like some people just don't want to play them. Like it's just not for me, right?
Yeah,
That kind of
I love
thing.
Ryu, man.
I've definitely felt like that with a lot of characters and in various games, 6, 5, whatever. It's just like, just even Honda in 5. When Honda came out in 5, like I was just like, he seems cool, but he's like, it's not for me. And like
Yeah.
I just didn't end up playing him. I ended up playing Ed towards the end of 5 and had more fun doing that.
It's because you wanted safe hands, Benny. You wanted safe
Yeah,
hands. That's
yeah.
what it was. And everybody knew that shit was stupid. And so he hasn't had safe hands since.
That's why I like Evil Ryu or Kage, because they're basically Shotos, but they're stylish.
Yeah,
yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit more.
That's why I like Chun for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, I could lean back on the OS and being like, look, I'm playing a fundamental game, guys, but I also have a stance overhead.
Yeah.
I can pull out the gimmicks if I need to,
Mm-hmm.
Or even Oni in a sense too.
Oni was so cool. I love that character.
Yeah.
Unblockables Oni, so cool.
I like how you're preaching fundamentals and you're like, by the way, check out these unblockables.
I love unblockables, dude. I love them. It's funny because like you said, but like it's still cool to do. Like like it's like Marvel 3, dude. Like when you get the touch of death combo, it's like rewarding. You earn that right there. If you don't drop it, just good.
Yep. It's fantastic because it's the marrying like the performative aspect that you were talking about, both you see in music and like your favorite guitar players or your favorite players like Sako. You're marrying that with your desire to. It's almost like a freedom of expression in a way of like a form of expression rather, where you want to win a certain way, but you want to be as stylish as possible while winning that way.
Mm.
Or performative, I guess is another way to put it. So.
Oh no, Benny, you're on mute.
Benny, you muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was I was like, that's my downfall, John, is that I just want to do some cool shit.
Same, dude. I've lost so many tournaments due to that. I'd be like, I'm gonna go for this one frame combo that's I don't need to do at all to kill this person, but I'm gonna drop it and die. It's happened so many times.
Yeah, I've lost many around where I'm just like, I'm gonna do this EX Fireball teleport mix up, and then it was like eat a level 3, like shit. I was like, that was so dumb. I was like, what am I doing?
It's a gamble though. It's the risk, man. We're addicted to that.
But if it works, it looks cool though.
Exactly. I know. Tom's a fundamental player.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I think he's a fundamental player at it right now.
No, he played 0 in the maybe now. Maybe
I have my bullshit, that's for sure. When I run out of fundamentals, the bullshit starts coming out, and even my fundamentals I can't anti-air for shit right now.
Man, I had somebody hit. I was playing this Chun, like I beat them. I think I beat them in the set, but like they did like a walk up. They walked up to me and then they did air legs, and I tacked, and I was like, that motherfucker.
That's funny. I want to know your guys' opinion though about like the players from then and now. Who's better?
Who's better
in terms of who?
In terms of just generally, like, is there a better caliber player than there is now than there was back then?
You talking about locally, or you talking about in the
generally
grand scheme of things?
The world.
I can go first. I think the best players are better now than they were back then. I think that the games have gotten so streamlined that the definition of best is very much it's less so in question. I think that in the older games there was so much extra variance because of the way they were designed, and it was easier for the best players to get randomed out in older games.
Yeah.
You could get blown up by a random ass matchup, or you can get unblockable in Street Fighter 4, or you can get Abigailed in Street Fighter 5. Yeah, you can get T-Hawked in Street Fighter in Super Turbo, right? But I think the best players now, like as far as like Punk and Mena, or even the Birds, who haven't really been performing lately, but like they're better than the old guard. I think there's a fair amount of old guard folks that were good at the old games and only good at those games, and the game has changed. And on the flip side, you see new games come out, and the players that were the best in Street Fighter 5 are still the best players in Street Fighter 6. And that's not to say that there aren't any old guard players that are still good. Like Tokido is still relevant, right? But there's way more of the new guard that are better right now. And I think that's
and
a
Walker,
sign of the
bro.
game.
Excellent example.
Hell yeah. Annie Walker, very good in Street Fighter 5, fantastic in Street Fighter 6. Valmaster is another good example where I think he was fantastic in Street Fighter 4 and carried over as well. But by and large, I don't see many Super Turbo or Third Strike players succeeding in modern games.
No. Can't say MOV.
Yeah.
He's like mid. He's mid.
Well, he's still really fucking good. Like I think very highly of MOV. Like I by no means am I saying like, oh, they're washed up, but like I do think that's why I've been fixated so much on talking lately about the mindset of the competitor of being the best and whatnot, because that's something that does transcend every game. Daigo wrote an entire fucking book on it, you know.
Absolutely.
But I think that mindset is acquired much quicker for the modern era for the younger guys, and frankly, they have the resources to do so now.
Yeah. Especially working remote. Boom.
Yeah. Or you're sponsored and it's your job, and you get fucking personal trainers exercising your hands for you or some shit, right?
Are you talking about the birds?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
No, just like that's an interesting take that you got, John, because it runs opposite from what I was seeing from some of the top players or the older top players on Twitter, whereas they feel like the games are easier and it's allowed, you know, newer players to excel at them. But I kind of almost have that same thought where like I feel like the skill level of players today is higher in terms of like, you know, what they're capable of. Almost like Isaac said, like, you know, you see Sonic Fox being great at multiple games, you know, Punk being good at multiple games, and I feel like if you were to put the older guys if the older guys took the time to try to play the newer games, and you took the newer guys and put them in the older games, like I feel like the newer players would have more success playing those older games than the older players would have success playing the modern games. And I mean, it almost like you talked about like last episode in terms of like my life experience, and I wonder, it makes me kind of wonder if that would be a detriment to the older players, is kind of having that mentality from like the old games. Like you talk about boomer neutral all the time in terms of like, you know, how they play, how certain OG players play, right? And it's like, will that work against them in these newer games where, you know, those kind of tactics aren't going to work as well, right? Like, you know, you're throwing out heavy buttons all the time and like Super Turbo and stuff like that, but you do that in Street Fighter 6 and you're getting DI'd most of the time unless you have a super stocked up and ready to react. So like, you know, is that going to be a detriment to them doing well in these games?
It's a detriment in the terms of like, when you have that much experience and institutional knowledge of older games, it becomes a burden because you have to unlearn that stuff in order to learn the new game. Versus nowadays, I think, particularly with patch culture, where we know how fighting games are, like we know that we're going to get patched a year from now, and so like I didn't play certain characters knowing that they were going to be nerfed, and vice versa, or maybe certain people are sticking with certain characters knowing that they're going to get buffed someday. I think that mentality of, because again, it's not even the old guys' fault, because old guys are like, oh, this arcade release happened, might be the last one, you know. But nowadays we know how long the game is going to be supported for, and so we can plan for the future accordingly and learn it a different way altogether, versus having to continuously unlearn your older habits. I think for our generation, our Street Fighter 4 player generation, we are not long for the competitive scene as well, because over time we just accrue that baggage of stuff we have to unlearn for the new game. Versus like the kid, like Freezy is a good example. A 16-year-old kid is his first Street Fighter game ever, and he can hang with all of us because he doesn't have all that extra stuff he has to unlearn.
I mean, you brought up the whole like LeBron versus Michael Jordan thing earlier, right? Just, you know, in passing, but like, no, like this whole discussion with the FGC, the old FGC, new FGC, just reminds me of basically the discussion that happens with that, in terms of like comparing the different eras. And it's hard because it's like, you know, we have in the FGC, we have different games. You know, in basketball, there's different eras, there's different rules. Like the game was more physical back in the day. The game today, like I don't personally enjoy watching basketball. And like in high school, like I was like, ball is life. Like I was playing ball like all day. Nowadays, like I'm not really interested in how it's played nowadays. Like the kind of just the way the game's played nowadays is not very interesting to me now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really hard to kind of compare those kind of things because it like people bring that up all the time. Would LeBron survive in a different era? And I'm just like, I think he would. I mean, he's an athletic
Absolutely.
freak, and I'm like, he's taking advantage of what the rules are today. If you put him in a different era, he would just, bulldoze
Take
people
advantage.
back then, right? He would be like Shaq back in the day. And the same thing with like Michael Jordan. Like I feel Michael Jordan's just, mentally like he was just that guy. And like I feel like that would transcend anything even nowadays. Like he would adjust to how things are today. So
The Daigo mentality, bro.
Yeah.
Mind of a champion.
That's the book, is the will to keep winning. And when things change, can you keep winning?
Yeah, exactly.
It's good stuff.
It really is.
Well, we've I think we've hit our allotted time here. We didn't even talk about Street Fighter V. We briefly talked about Street Fighter 6. So there's a lot. There's a whole era I think that we should cover next time you're on the show, Isaac.
Yeah.
I hope you're willing to come back. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Do you have any shout outs on the way out? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shout outs to you guys. Thank you, John. Thank you, Benny, for having me. It's an honor. I want to say, shout outs to that Tucson FGC. I love you guys. Shout outs to Phoenix FGC. I love you guys. Shout outs to overall Arizona. I even know some fools up in Yuma, like AZ Greg,
Yeah.
Just keep on doing what you guys are doing. I want to say, like, I'm impressed. I'm blown away by, like, the new players. Like, Chase is blowing me away. Yeah. Brandy, I was like, what the fuck is, like, everybody's getting demolished. And I looked like a fool. I was like, cool. I like this. And, like, it's like that makes me want to play again because, like, losing is a lesson. So, like, don't let your ego kind of take that away from you.
It's a good way to put it. Cool. Well, this has been the Absolute Guard Podcast, episode 78 with Jon, Benny, and Isaac. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Absolute Guard. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you, Ron. Bye.
Oh, you jumped in. It's all good.
Whoops. I forgot to tell them about the post show.
No, that's all good.
Shit. All right. Well, that is what it is there. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.